Waiting by Michael Connelly, that's the book that I want to talk about here and today. In 2017, Michael Connelly introduced a new character in his universe. Renee Ballard had her debut in the novel The Late Show, in which she worked primarily night shifts, also called The Late Show within the LAPD, the Los Angeles Police Department. In Dark Sacred Night in 2018, Ballard teams up for the first time with Connelly's signature character, Harry Bosch, and works together with him for the very first time. The character of Renee Ballard is based on a real person, namely Detective Mitzi Roberts, who was an experienced homicide detective in Los Angeles, and she retired earlier this year. Connelly had the opportunity to shadow Roberts in her work to get more insight into the reality of police investigations, but he has also repeatedly consulted Mitzi Roberts to get her perspective as a woman on the force, and I hear she was also consulting for the TV show Ballard that will air next spring on Amazon Prime, so we have something to look forward to. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. It helps growing the channel and will bring you even better content in the future. Thank you very much, and back to the video. The Waiting is the sixth novel with Renee Ballard, and we will both meet Harry Bosch, but also his daughter Madeline, called Maddie, who now has decided to follow in her father's footsteps in becoming a police detective herself, but she works as an officer. In the beginning, Ballard does what she loves when she is free. She goes to the ocean to surf. But when returning to her car, she finds her car was burglarized, and both her service weapon, a Glock, and her badge have been stolen, which is quite a thing for her, actually. Because reporting this in could result in serious problems for her, since she's not very popular among some male superiors. Ballard needs to find the person who stole her belongings by circling around the usual way of communication and the usual way of process in the police department, something in which she later will need the help of Harry Bosch, who must now be in his late 60s or early 70s. Bosch is going through a cancer treatment. We have seen that in the last couple of novels, and apparently has lost weight, but we do not really learn how he is doing. He won't tell anybody. He won't tell Maddie. He won't tell Ballard. At the same time, the open unsolved unit that Ballard is leading now gets a breaking connection to a case that they have been investigating. The DNA of a suspect the LAPD has arrested matches in large extent with the DNA of the pillowcase rapist, a man who not only raped a lot of women but also murdered his very last victim, and who has been on the run, on the loose, for about 20 years. In his 2019 novel, The Night Fire, also that with Ballard and Bosch, genealogy played an important role for the very first time in Connelly's work. Forensic genealogy is a cutting-edge investigative method that combines DNA analysis with genealogical research to identify individuals such as criminal suspects, unidentified victims, or missing persons. It leverages the power of genetics and publicly available genealogical data to trace familial relationships. I don't know if it's possible in Sweden, actually, to do this. As late as 2018, this new method was introduced for the very first time when American police found the Golden State Killer Joseph James DeAngelo. DeAngelo committed at least 13 murders between 1975 and 1986, was found guilty of raping at least 50 women and 120 burglaries. At age 72, DeAngelo could finally be arrested thanks to Barbara Ray Venter, a retired lawyer and genetic genealogist. Since then, numerous cold cases could be solved thanks to FGG, and Michael Connelly is using this method in The Waiting to create both suspense, but also connecting his writing to the current and real world of police work. In The Waiting, it turns out that a suspect's DNA connects to the pillowcase rapist's DNA. And it leads to a new suspect in this cold case that no one would ever have expected. And can Ballard and her team really go through with this? Music also usually plays a huge role in Michael Connelly's novels, especially when they focus on Harry Bosch. This time, music is not that present in the novel, which I regret a little bit because Connelly has a very good musical taste. Although the title of the novel, The Waiting, comes from a very famous Tom Petty song with the same title from Petty's album Hard Promises from 1981. The Waiting was the first of 10 Tom Petty songs that reached the top position on the American Billboard, others being Free Fallin', Learning to Fly, Running Down a Dream, or Mary Jane's Last Dance, and there were a couple of more. You can name them in the comments down below. Here, The Waiting stands for the never-ending waiting of the loved ones of murder victims to bring justice to those who were killed years or even decades ago. But the pillowcase rapist is not the only case our detectives and officers have to solve this time. Maddie Bosch joins the force. She joins the Open Unsolved unit for 1 day a week as a volunteer, and she brings in the real case of the Black Dahlia. 22-year-old Elizabeth Short was found dead on January 15, 1947, in a vacant lot in the Leimert Park neighborhood in Los Angeles. Her body was brutally assaulted and bisected and mutilated, and the case has never been solved until today, becoming one of the most prominent cold cases not only in Los Angeles but in American crime history, the Black Dahlia. Elizabeth Short was called the Black Dahlia by the media, which was likely influenced by the movie The Blue Dahlia from 1 year earlier, in which Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake played, but also because Elizabeth was known for wearing dark clothes. There have been uncounted theories about the murder, and several suspects were mentioned in the literature. The Steve Hodel, for example, a retired LAPD detective, thought that his father, George Hodel, had killed Elizabeth Short. Others were Mark Hansen, a suspect who was a nightclub owner, Leslie Dillon, a writer, Walter Bailey, a surgeon who used to live in the neighborhood of Elizabeth, and there were even speculations that the mob could have ordered the murder of this young woman. Well, now Maddie Bosch finds hints that point to a different suspect, and both Bosch and Ballard will follow these threads. Will they be able to solve a 66-year-old murder, a real murder, in a crime novel? And will Renee find her badge? Will she find her gun? And where will that lead her? These are the questions that Michael Connelly is leading us to. Michael Connelly weaves all this together in a masterful way, and as usual, he starts slow, but then he's increasing the pace of the book until you just cannot stop reading anymore. Thriller writing and reading is a lot about momentum, Connelly once said, and few writers write police procedural novels and characters better than this guy does. Ballard might not listen to as much music as Harry Bosch does, but we all have to eat, right? And Michael Connelly continues to advise us, his millions of readers, to come to Los Angeles and visit the food places his characters use to satisfy their hunger, and these places really do exist. Some of these will definitely be on my list if I ever come to the City of Angels in the future, in the next coming years. I hope so, that I once can get to LA and to Hollywood. For solving her cases, Ballard often must navigate and alter stories and narratives in order to get warrants or arrest orders or permission to go to the next step. Police work and Connelly's work is almost always connected with political interests of DAs or police chiefs, which makes it difficult for detectives on the field or in the field to bring justice to their victims. I've read almost all of Michael Connelly's 38 novels, 38, incredible number. Maybe I read all of them, I don't know. And The Waiting, well, it might be one of his best works yet, which is just amazing. In crime fiction, I see no other author or no other authors who can create page-turners with so many twists and turns that almost keep you breathless. Well, that's the fact with Michael Connelly's novels, and I'd really love it. The Waiting is now also with Michael Connelly's readers, who can barely wait for his next book. He has announced that there will be 2 new books in 2025. The first one is called Nightshade and will be published on May 20, and it will introduce a new character to the universe of Michael Connelly characters and also a new setting. We will go to Catalina Island, which lies 22 miles off the coast of Southern California and can be reached by a bunch of different ferries from Los Angeles. Well, I can't wait, and I hope that you will like The Waiting if you read it. Tell me all about it in the comments down below. Thanks for watching this video, and bye-bye.